Upper Primary students, I'm Victoria Carthew with you for another morning of lessons. Coming up, we will explore summarising the text that we've read in English. We will investigate angles that meet at a point in maths, and in science, we're going to continue our studies about the adaptations animals make to survive. So I hope that you're in a comfortable and quiet spot and that you're ready to begin. Let's start with English. Have you ever finished reading something at school and been asked to summarise it? Summarising is a really useful skill to have, so let's explore some ways to go about it.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris. When I was at school, I was asked to summarise what I read in a lot of my classes. At first, I was never really sure what I was being asked to do, and ended up just writing down pretty much everything I had just read. This was definitely not what I was supposed to do. Summarising means creating a shortened version of a text with the purpose of expressing the main points or ideas. So I know that the main idea of a text is really important when it comes to summarising. But what is the main idea? Well, the main idea of a text is the central thought or overall idea of the whole text or paragraph or section. Okay, so this means that when we summarise, we need to create a shortened version of what we have read or viewed that focuses on the central thought and overall idea. That makes sense. But how do we do this? Well, there are a few strategies that we can use to help us work out the main idea of our text. Remember, we need to know the main idea of the text to help us summarise. To identify the main idea in a text, we can read the title. The title is normally a good indication of what we are about to read or view. We can find the topic sentence or sentences for the text being read. Normally, we'd expect to see the topic sentence at the start of the paragraph, but this is not always the case. Did you know that a topic sentence can be found in the middle or at the end of a paragraph? This is why it's really important to actually read our text. We can also read the first and last sentence of the paragraph and look for repeated words and phrases. Let's have a look at a written text and see if we can identify the main idea. The text that we are going to read helps us understand the context for a video that we're going to watch afterwards. Let's read our short text. Australia in the 1870s. In 1870, 37% of Australia's population lived in the cities and the majority was Australian born. It was a time when Australia became one of the most urbanised countries in the world. The Selection Acts had opened up land to small farmers, but as time passed, many moved back to the cities in search of work. Before we begin working out the main idea of this text, there is one word that we need to know the meaning of. The text says Australia became one of the most urbanised countries in the world. Urbanised means to become urban, or to have the characteristics of a city. Now, let's read the title. Australia in the 1870s. Well, now I know the time frame. Let's read the topic sentence. In 1870, 37% of Australia's population lived in the cities and the majority was Australian born. So this sentence is about over a third of Australians living in cities. If I then look at my last sentence, it says that many people move back to the cities in search of work. Are you starting to work out the main idea? Let's look for some repeated words and phrases. I can see cities is mentioned a few times, as is the word urbanised, which I now know means to have the characteristics of a city. So what do you think the main idea of this paragraph is? That's right. It's about Australians moving to the cities in the 1870s. Now that we know the main idea, let's write a summary of this paragraph. In our summary, we want to write a shortened version of the text, thinking about and identifying the who, when, where, what, and why, to express the main idea in the text. In this short text, the who are Australians, the when is the 1870s, the where is Australia, the what is people moving to cities, and the why is to look for work. How would you summarise this paragraph? You may have said, in the 1870s, many Australians were living in cities searching for work. Now that we have created a summary of our written text, we are going to watch a clip from the television show My Place. The clip is set in the 1870s, and you'll be introduced to two characters, Henry Muller and Franklin Wong. While you're watching, I want you to think about the main ideas and how you could summarise what you're watching. To do this, you'll have to have a think about what you see and what you hear.
Welcome to New Year, and to a night where we remember that failure is not about falling down. It's about how you get up again.
It's time to light your lanterns. Brought to you by Muller and Wong. Wong and Muller? Wong and Muller. You got it.
So how would you summarise this text to express the main idea? Maybe you would say something like, the local community celebrates the Chinese New Year with traditional celebrations. Henry and Franklin contribute by launching their lanterns. Summarising is a great way to make sure that you know the main idea of a text. While you are reading today, think about the main idea of what you read and how you could summarise the text for someone else who has not read what you have. See you next time. Bye.
It's time for maths. Even though the word geometry comes from the combination of two ancient Greek words meaning earth and measuring, geometry was around for a very long time before the Greeks. Did you know that Indigenous Australians used geometry to map reliable water sources and used song lines to ensure the locations were remembered and passed on to others? One of the important aspects that helps us to use geometry is understanding angles.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Maths. Today we're going to explore some very special angles that all hang out together around a point. Have a look at this juicy orange. Can you see the 9 segments all clustered around the centre? There's no spaces in between the segments, are there? This is geometry in action. How exciting that maths can describe what nature shows us. We can represent the segments of the orange as a maths diagram. The segments clustered around the centre of the orange can be represented as angles clustered around a point. On this page, we have used a ruler to draw two straight intersecting lines. So we have created 4 angles, 1, 2, 3, 4. These angles all intersect at a point called the point of intersection. We have labelled them A, B, C and D. Do you remember what adjacent angles are? Which angles are adjacent to B? If you said A and C, you are correct. Can you explain how you know? We know that angles A and C are adjacent to B because they share a common ray with angle B and they share a common vertex. Let's have another look at our diagram and let's think about the angles A and B. What do you know about these two angles? Firstly, they are adjacent and are on a straight line. There's a special term we use to describe these kind of angles. Do you remember the correct word that describes angles that are adjacent and on a straight line? Adjacent angles on a straight line are called supplementary, meaning that they will add up to 180 degrees. On our diagram, angles A and B are supplementary and add up to 180 degrees. That means that angles C and D also add up to 180 degrees because they are adjacent and are on a straight line. Let's write this down. A plus B is equal to 180 degrees. C plus D is equal to 180 degrees. Therefore, A plus B plus C plus D is equal to 180 degrees plus 180 degrees. The answer is 360 degrees. Wow! So the 4 angles at this point added to 360 degrees. You might like to prove this for yourself by using a protractor to measure each angle. Just make sure it always adds up to 360 degrees no matter what angles you use. Now we have 2 intersecting lines and measured one of the angles at 79 degrees. The size of the missing angles are unknown, so they are labelled with pronumerals, D, E and F. Now we need to calculate the size of D, E and F without using a protractor. So let's think this one out loud. So we can see that this angle and the angle F are adjacent. This means that they must add up to 180 degrees. So we subtract 79 degrees from 180 degrees and we find angle F. Well, that one's easy. That's 101 degrees. We could do the same calculation for D and E, but I'm hoping you remember another special generalisation we use in geometry, that vertically opposite angles are equal, because angle D is vertically opposite angle F. They must be equal. That means D is also 101 degrees. Now finally, let's consider angle E. The best part about geometry is that there are many different ways of getting the answers. You just have to choose the one you find the best method for you. Can you see how we could find how big angle E is? We could add up the 3 angles that we already know and subtract it from 360 degrees. Or we could use the vertically opposite rule again. Or we could also use the adjacent rule again. It doesn't matter. Use any of these 3 rules. We'll calculate that angle E is 79 degrees. How do we know we're correct? It's always good to check the reasonableness of our answers. The best way we can check is to add the 4 angles and see if they add up to 360 degrees. Okay, 79 degrees plus 101 degrees plus 79 degrees plus 101 degrees equals 360 degrees. Great job. Here's one for you to work on. I hope you have your thinking caps on. I suggest that you start with angle S. Have you noticed that it is vertically opposite from the 55 degrees angle? Excellent. So angle S equals 55 degrees. Okay, now let's see if you can work on angle R. Angle S and R are adjacent on this straight line, so they must be supplementary, meaning angle R and angle S, which we know is 55 degrees, add up to 180 degrees. 180 degrees, subtract the 55 degrees, is 125 degrees. So angle R equals 125 degrees. Finally, let's find angle T. You can see how we'd calculate it. There are many different ways we can find this angle, but this is the method that works best for me. I know that this angle is 55 degrees and this marking is a right angle, which is 90 degrees. So that means we have 55 degrees plus 90 degrees, which is 145 degrees. So angle T is what's left over from 180 degrees. Let's do a quick subtraction. We have 180 degrees, subtract, in brackets, our 55 degrees plus 90 degrees. So that is 180 degrees, subtract 145 degrees, which leaves us with 35 degrees. So angle T equals 35 degrees. Wow, that's some fantastic geometry calculations we've done. Let's recap what we've learned today. We discovered that the sum of all angles at a point is always 360 degrees. We reminded ourselves that vertically opposite angles of two intersecting lines are equal, and that adjacent angles on a straight line are supplementary, which means they add up to 180 degrees. Later on today, you might like to draw some intersecting lines. Start with two intersecting lines and estimate the sizes of one of the angles. Then use your knowledge of vertically opposite angles and supplementary angles to calculate the values of any missing angles. You might even like to send some to your friends to try and see if they are as good as you are at geometry. Another thing you can do is look for geometry around us. We started with the segments of an orange. See where else you can find angles at a point in your environment. Bye for now.
Thank you, Heather. Now, how are you feeling today? I'm feeling happy and energised because I love working with you on Learning at Home TV. And I'm hoping that this next lesson will help you feel just as good because it's a very useful wellbeing technique that concentrates on breathing.
Hi, my name's Renee. This is Melissa. She's a teacher of the deaf. Helping our mind and our body relax is good for our well-being. One way to do this is to breathe deep into our tummy. Today, when we do our breathing, we're going to count how many breaths we can take in 10 seconds. When you do this at home, it's a good idea to do it for 1 minute. Okay, let's get going. When you are tummy breathing, you might like to be lying down, sitting in a comfortable spot, or even standing up, whatever suits you. We're going to be standing up today. Place your hands high on your tummy. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. That's one breath. We're going to see how many breaths Melissa does in 10 seconds. Are you ready? Take a deep breath in and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How many breaths did you do? 4. Melissa did 4 breaths in 10 seconds. You can do magic minute breathing throughout the day, whenever you need to relax or focus on something else. Thanks for joining us for this brain break.
It's now time for science. Think about how we use our hands. Thanks to the structure of our thumbs, we're able to easily grasp and hold on to objects like a pen or cutlery. This is an adaptation in humans. Today in science, we're going to learn about how the adaptations in animals allow them to survive in their habitat. Here's Jen with more.
I wonder if you've ever travelled into the Australian outback. Maybe you live in Outback, Queensland. Take a moment to think about the features of the habitat, that is, the living and non-living things. The outback refers to remote, empty, semi-arid desert land. It has orange sands with very few grasses and small shrubs and trees. It is a dry and harsh environment with very little rain and temperatures as high as 50 degrees Celsius on a summer day and as low as -10 degrees Celsius on a winter night. It also has a rich biodiversity with hundreds of different types of reptiles, birds, mammals and insects. Today we're going to learn about how some of these animals have adapted to survive in the outback. We're going to do this by playing a game of Who Am I? For each animal, I will give you clues describing their adaptations. Your job is to try and guess the animal that I'm describing. Are you ready? Let's start. Who am I? My coat is light and dark brown. My fur is long around my throat, shoulders and back. I have long bushy eyelashes. I have an outer and inner eyelid. I can close my nostrils. I can live without water for days. And I have a hump on my back. Who am I? Yes, that was easy. I'm a camel. The camel's thick coat protects them from the sun and the extremes of heat and cold. Their bushy eyebrows help to protect their eyes from the sun, and their eyelashes also keep the sand out of their eyes. The camel has 2 eyelids, an outer and inner eyelid. The inner eyelid is clear, so it not only keeps sand out, it allows them to see in a sandstorm. Camels can also close their nostrils to keep sand out of their nose. They also have a hump composed of fibrous tissue and fat, which is a store of energy when they can't find food. In fact, when camels break down this fat into energy, their hump nearly disappears and flops over. Now, are these adaptations structural or behavioural? Remember, a structural adaptation is a physical characteristic, while a behavioural adaptation is an action taken by the animal. So, because the adaptations of the camel are physical characteristics, they are structural adaptations. Let's do another. Are you ready? Who am I? I am tiny, only 20 centimetres long. My skin has different colours ranging from light yellow and tan to olive brown and orange. I have a false head on the back of my neck. When I walk, I rock backwards and forwards, and my body is covered in spines with 2 deep grooves. Who am I? I am a thorny devil. The colours help the thorny devil camouflage to hide from predators like falcons. Can you see the false head on the back of their neck? It is a bulge of soft tissue that is used to fool predators. Their body is also covered in several rows of sharp spines, which help scare predators away. They also have deep grooves that channels water from dew, which collects on their body straight into their mouth. The thorny devil also moves slowly, stops often, and walks with a rocky back and forth movement. This slow, shaky movement confuses any potential predators. Now, is this a structural or behavioural adaptation? It's a behavioural adaptation. It is a deliberate action that the thorny devil carries out to survive. Okay, last one. Who am I? My fur is short but very thick, and it is a red-grey colour. I pant or breathe in short, sharp gasps. I travel and feed in a group called a mob. I am more active during the cooler part of the day. Have you guessed already? Here's 2 more clues. I have a long, strong tail, and females carry their young in a pouch. Who am I? I am a red kangaroo. The red-grey fur of the kangaroo helps them to hide in their habitat and reflects some heat from the sun, which helps them to stay cool. But when they get really hot, they pant to cool down, just like a dog. Kangaroos are social animals. They travel and feed in large groups called mobs with 100 other kangaroos because there is safety in numbers. They are also more active during the cooler periods of the day to help conserve energy and to prevent overheating in the hot sun. Now, could you identify any behavioural adaptations in kangaroos? There were two. Kangaroos have changed their behaviour so that they move safely together in mobs, and they are more active during the cooler periods of the day. Wow, the camel, thorny devil and red kangaroo really are well suited to the harsh environment of the outback. They have a range of structural or behavioural adaptations that allow them to cope with the heat of the day and cool nights, whilst also being able to find or store plenty of food and water. Okay, let's recap what we've learnt today. We now know that the Australian outback habitat is a harsh environment with hot days, cool nights, little rain, and very few trees and plants. And adaptations like two eyelids, nocturnal behaviour, and backs that channel water are adaptations that allow animals to survive in arid habitats. Now it's your turn. You might like to observe the structural and behavioural adaptations of animals in your local environment. Draw a diagram to show their structural adaptations and describe any behaviours that allow them to survive. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Thank you, Jen. Those thorny devils are fascinating creatures. Well, that's it for your Learning at Home TV experience today, and I hope you're all proud of how much you've learned. I will see you again soon, but in the meantime, stay safe and positive, take care of each other, and remember to regularly wash your hands. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Authorised by the Queensland Government, Brisbane.